Um, the verb, again, we've kind of gone back and we have started out into a completely new conjugation of the verb, okay? And so, we've been talking about nouns, and we got all the way through all our declensions of the nouns, and you guys have been doing a great job with that. And then, so last week we started talking about the second conjugation. And what I want to do today is, of course, after our recitations, I want to kind of review a little bit what we mean by a new conjugation. And I want to review just a little bit how these verbs are kind of put together using a root and then a connecting vowel and then an ending. And I want to make sure that we can think in those terms, that you can kind of work with those concepts pretty easily, that you can say, okay, yeah, this looks like it's changed its connecting vowel, or this looks like, my first declension, except for I notice a different ending or root here. So I want you to be able to think and understand those concepts, because that'll make learning the rest of the forms a lot easier. And so I want to make sure of that. That's right, like exactly, Timothy. So I want to kind of review how what we mean by we've moved to a new conjugation. I kind of want to review that and make sure that that's clear, and that everybody's on board with that. And then we're going to learn two new tenses today. So we'll learn the future and imperfect tenses in the second conjugation, and those are going to be really easy for you because you already know them from the first conjugation. So they're going to be really easy. All you got to do is change one little piece, and you'll be just fine. So that's what we're headed for today. But we're going to start, of course, as always, with recitations. Let's see. Go. So mute up your mics, and then we'll start with Amelin this morning. I'm drinking my coffee this morning out of a cup that says tea on it, just for the sake of irony. It's not really irony, but I guess it is. Okay, Amelin. So I'm just going to, today our recitation will be a mix of nouns and verbs. So we'll do a little bit of both. So Amelin, would you start off by reciting for us, please, the conjugation of nomen? Let me start the declension of nomen, please.
Nomen, nominis, neuter, name. Nomen, nominis, nomine, nomen, nomine, nomina, nominum, nominibus, nomina, nominibus.
Excellent. Thanks, Amelin. Great job. So back over those third declensions, making sure we remember those. Okay, Jacob, mic's not working there. Jason, is your mic working? Okay, looks like. So why don't you give us a try then? Would you please conjugate sum in the perfect tense system, please, in the perfect system. Sum in the perfect system. Ah, the X disease has gotten Jason too. Okay, Joe, how about that? Sum in the perfect system.
Really well. Fui, fruited, fruit. Fui, fruited, fruit. Fruited, fruit. From, fruit, fruited, fruit. Fruited, fruit.
Great job, Joe. Yeah, I didn't get, you cut off a little bit in the perfect tense, but the other two tenses were perfect that I did here. So great job. So fui, fuisti, fuit, fuimus, fuistis, fuerunt, right? In the perfect, just so that everyone can hear. I'm not sure if it cut out, but everything else that you did was perfect. So the pluperfect was right, and the future perfect was right. Great job, Joe. John Paul, would you give us let's see. Would you give us creo in the present system, please? Creo. Yes, John Paul.
Creo, creas, creat, creamus, creatis, creant. Creabo, creabis, creabit, creabimus, creabitis, creabunt. Creabam, creabas, creabat, creabamus, creabatis, creabant.
Okay, so I think you mixed up. If I didn't get lost there, I think you mixed up maybe the plurals of the future with the plurals of the imperfect. I think maybe you did that, the imperfect plurals twice. So creabo, creabis, creabit, creabimus, creabitis, creabunt. I may have heard that wrongly, John Paul, but otherwise good. Sophia, would you recite, please, mono in the present tense, please? Mono in the present tense. This is what we learned last week.
Monel, mones, monet, monemus, monetis, monet.
Perfect. Great job, Sophia. So that was what we learned last week. So that's one of our second conjugation verbs there. And let's see, Timothy. Let's go back and get the fourth declension. Okay, so what about senatus? Decline senatus for us, please, Timothy.
Senatus. Senatus. Senati. I forgot my thingy's up. Senatus, senati. It is masculine, and it translates to senate. Senatus, senati, senatum, senat.
Fourth declension.
Okay. Let's see. It is senatus. Let me think. Senatus. Senatus. Okay. Senatus. Trying to think. Senatus, senatui, senatum, senatus, senatuum, senatibus, senatibus.
Good work. Thanks, Timothy. All right, good stuff, guys. Any questions about any of those recitations? Hopefully those are pretty self-explanatory for most of you. Turn to page 76. And this is one of my favorite Latin sayings that we get to start with today in lesson 30. Because good question. Why is this my favorite? Well, so let's look at it and talk about it, and I'll explain. So cave canem. If you repeat that for it, cave canem. Cave canem. So not cave canem, but cave canem. And this means beware the dog, or watch out for the dog. And so this comes from this cave. This word cave is actually the present stem plus the connecting vowel of a new vocabulary word we're going to learn today, cavo, cavere, which means to beware, right? So when you're commanding someone in Latin, usually what you can just do is add an E onto the end of your present stem. So if you're just commanding one person, you can say cave, or you know, vale, be well, cave, beware. And so if you want to command someone, just take that stem and add an E to it. If you're commanding one person, if you're commanding more than one person, you would add an ete onto the stem. So cavete canem would be y'all beware of dog, you know. But this is just talking to one person. Cave canem, beware of dog. So it doesn't look like a verb form that you know. Cave doesn't, because you haven't learned the command forms of verbs. They're called imperatives, and you haven't learned that kind of form yet. We've been in the indicative the whole time so far. But then you know dog, right? So beware the dog canem. This is your third declension noun, canis canis, right? And so this is one of those nouns, right? Remember that takes its gender from the gender of the dog. So it could be masculine or feminine depending on the gender of the natural gender of the dog. So cave canem, beware the dog. And canem here is accusative. In English, we say beware of the dog, almost always, right? We say beware of the dog. And so you might expect that Latin would say cave canis, put it in the genitive case, right? You might expect that. But that's not the way this verb works in Latin. This verb, the verb itself means beware of. So the ofness, that of meaning, is actually part of the verb. And so you don't need it to be in the noun, and you just put the noun in the accusative. It's a direct object of cave. All right, so that's how it works. So even though we might translate this, beware of the dog, it still wouldn't be genitive because in Latin it works a little bit differently. The cave means watch out for. And then so the object would be canem, dog. Now here's why I like it. Now, not that I particularly like vicious dogs, but we still have this same sign today, right? You can go to I believe that the mosaic that's on page 77. If you look across there, the dog on a leash. That's an actual mosaic from I believe the 2nd century or something in Italy. I think it might be from Ostia. That's a port south of Rome. But I could be mistaken. There's one that I've seen from Ostia looks similar to this. But this is a really common little sign. This would have they might have this as part of the tile on the outside, right outside of the door of their home. And a middle upper class family would have mosaics all over their home representing their patron kind of gods and goddesses of their family, of their kind of tribe that they were in. They would have mosaics of their ancestors. They would have mosaics of perhaps famous deeds of the family or whatever. But also they would have this often a mosaic if they had a big dog with cave canem on it, because they could get sued if their dog attacked another person. So they could get just like today, you have a sign up in your yard that says beware of dog. That's out of compassion for your neighbors, but also because if you don't have that sign up and the mailman gets bitten by your dog, then you might be liable for that. So it's fun to me to see this. I like it because it's just it's a way in which we are so similar to the people that we're studying, the people we are studying through their language. Some aspects of our culture have just simply not changed in 2,000 years. We're closer in some ways to the Roman culture than we think sometimes. Yeah, it's 2,000 years ago, but very similar in a lot of ways. In fact, I would say that probably if you went back 400 years, or especially 500 or 600 years from now, you would probably find less in common with those people than if you went back 2,000 years. because you would get back 500, 600 years into the start and get into the Middle Ages, and we would have much less in common with those people and their culture than we would with Romans and Roman culture. And this is just an example, an everyday example of how similar our cultures are at certain points. We have the same signs. And I was thinking about this yesterday. I told my other class this. If you know who Cleopatra is, do you know who Cleopatra was? She was a regent of Egypt during the time of Julius Caesar and into the time of Mark Antony, during the triumvirate, right as the Republic was dying. And she was one of a dynasty called the Ptolemies. She was of Greek origin, but she was an Egyptian, basically an Egyptian pharaoh. And she lived, probably, just the 1st century BC. So we're talking 40, 30, 20 BC. 50 years or so before Christ or so. She would have spoken almost only Greek, but she could speak Egyptian as well. She was famous for that. Not all the Ptolemies could speak Egyptian. I assume she could also write it. But she was popular for that reason. She considered herself to be one of the pharaohs in that line, even though she was a Ptolemy, so just descended from one of Alexander's generals. But yeah, she probably could understand Latin. I'm not sure. Usually Romans spoke Greek as well, and that was kind of the lingua franca of the time. But anyway, what's interesting about this is that she is the regent of Egypt. She is closer to us in time. So Cleopatra is closer to us in time than she was to the building of the pyramids. Right. So to give you a perspective on how that just kind of gives you a sense of what kind of time we're talking about here. We're 2,000 years removed from her, but she is actually closer to us in time than she was to the building of the pyramids, which were 3,000 years before her. So I think that's an interesting. We are 2,000 years apart from these folks that we're studying, but there are a lot of similarities and commonalities, and they were a lot like us in a lot of ways, and that the saying that we're studying today reveals a little window into that. So, Kabe kanem, beware the dog. Any questions about that saying or anything like that? No? All right. The Rosetta Stone is from a little earlier than that. I think Rosetta Stone's from the 2nd century BC, I believe. So, 150 BC or something. Okay, so today we're going to finish up the second conjugation. And before we do that, I want to make sure that we're clear about what we mean by being in a new conjugation. Okay, so it's important to do that as we change conjugations for the first time. So if you look at the bottom of your class notes, you should be there. It should have changed down there for you. But if you look at the bottom of the class notes, it says I've given you the singular forms of the present tense of the first conjugation and second conjugation modal verbs. Okay, so I've given you the present tense singular forms of amo and of mono, just so you can compare them. And I want to point out a couple of things here. Of course, amo is in the first conjugation, and mono is in the second conjugation. That mono is our modal verb for the second conjugation. Now, it's possible, and in fact, I kind of think it's probable that you have been learning your endings for these verbs. As you've learned the endings for the verbs, you probably have learned them like o, as, at, amos, atis, ant. Abam, abas, abat, abamus, abatis, abant. And etc. Abo, abis, abit, abimus, abitis, abon. If you've been learning them like that, o, as, at, amos, atis, an, then you're going to want to kind of probably change the way that you're thinking about the endings. Because the endings are actually, well, what you're doing when you say o, as, at, amos, atis, an, is you're actually not reciting just the endings. You're actually reciting the, yeah, so good. So you did ost, mus, tis, unt, and that's the right way to do it. And I'm sure that's the way that it was taught. So if you learn those endings, you'll be fine. But what you don't think of, yeah, so you need to make sure that you're thinking of a stem and then a connecting vowel and then an ending. So you need to think of a verb as having really at least, at least 3 pieces, 3 kind of train cars, right, or a locomotive and 2 train cars. So you have, your locomotive, which is your verbal root, your stem. Here we're dealing with, right, the present stem right now. And so that's kind of like your locomotive. And it's going to pull along an ending like the car. But you need a coupler, which is your connecting vowel. So plus s is your, is your stem, s is your ending, and the a kind of couples the cars to get, so that's what you want to be thinking of here, so that I can change out one of these cars, and put a new one in there, a new coupler or whatever, and you don't have to change the whole thing. But if you learn them as kind of a piece, then when part of it changes, it can get confusing, and so I don't want that to be the case for you. And so it sounds like that you guys are fine. You're thinking of mon as the stem, and then as the connecting vowel, and then your endings, and that's fine. So John Paul, you actually want to think of mon as the stem, e as the connecting vowel, and then the ost, mus, tis, unt as your endings. Okay, so right now, I mean, you've learned like mon. Goodness, oh. You've like moneo, monere, and you just took the re off, and then you ended up with monet, and then you add the endings, right? But what that actually is, it's mon plus a connecting vowel plus an ending. So you actually kind of take off ere, and then you add an e connecting vowel and a t. You drop the RE for now, and that'll give you the right. See, what dropping the RE does, it gives you the stem and the connecting vowel. Yeah, that's just a shortcut to get you to the stem and the connecting vowel. In the third conjugation, you'll have to change that a little bit. The shortcut doesn't work in the third conjugation. So, but I wanted to let you know what's really happening there, so that you can kind of see what changes as we go to a new conjugation. A new conjugation basically means that we're going to change out the way that we add cars to our stem. That we add cars to our kind of locomotive there. Yeah. So just to remind you of that, looking here in our class notes, hopefully you can see that we instead of amo, we get moneo, right? Moneo. The connecting vowel actually shows up in the first person singular in the second conjugation. It doesn't in the first. Whereas the first conjugation as, the second conjugation is mon es. The first conjugation at, mon et. So the only difference, of course, is in the blue there, the connecting vowels. So that's what we mean by we moved into a new conjugation. So I have a lot of students who start with the second conjugation and want to go with like moneo, moneas, moneat, moneamus, and then that's not going to be right because you're adding an a on there that doesn't need to go. So moneo, mones, monet, monemus, monetis, monet. So now that's probably review and old hat for some of you, and if that was boring, I'm glad because that means that you know it. So so let's move on now to add another train car to our little train here. So we're going to move into now we're going to move into the imperfect tense. Now again, the imperfect tense is formed exactly the same way as it is in the first conjugation, except of course for the connecting vowel. The connecting vowel changes to an E. So I'll do that here. So you have mone, and then you have mon, a, and now you have ba, and then your ending. So exactly what you expect here, mone, bam. That's your imperfect first singular. Yes, this is a long E. Yeah, so mon, yeah, long E. All of the connecting vowels in the imperfect and future are long. Yeah. So monet bam, monet bas. Monet ba. Okay, and so forth. I mean, you know these. You can probably already recite it. Monet bam, monet bas, monet bat, monet ba, mus, monet batis, monet bant. Right. So you can see that on the top of page 76. Monet bam, monet bas, monet bat, monet bamus, monet batis, monet bant. So this is, of course, mono, which means to warn. I am warning. And so monet bam, I was warning. Monet bas, you were warning. Monet bat, he, she, it was warning. Monet bamus, we were warning. Monet batis, you were warning. Monet bant, they were warning. That's right, John Paul. A lot of second conjugation verbs will have irregular principal parts. A lot of them do. And in fact, next week we're going to talk about the regular principal parts of the second conjugation, and then we'll look at some of the irregular ones too. Some of them are so irregular that they don't even have all their principal parts. So the second conjugation is much more irregular than the first in principal parts. So yeah, so the imperfect is exactly what you expect. Bam, bas, bat, bamus, batis, bant, but it's connected with a long E instead of an A. Okay, so looking at the future now. Looking at the future, you get mon, a, and then of course your regular future endings. Bo, monet, bis, mon, a, bit, mon, a, bibus, mon, a, bitis, mon, a, bunt. Mon, bo, mon, bis, mon, bit, mon, bimus, mon, bitis, mon, bunt. And these are translated, of course, exactly like they are in the first conjugation. I will warn, you will warn, he, she, it will warn, we will warn, you will warn, plural, they will warn. So there's not a lot new to learn here for you, which may be good news. You can focus on your vocabulary today, I think. Any questions about the forms? Okay. Okay. Let's look then at our vocabulary now. So I'll say the vocabulary, and then you can repeat it at home. and then I'll give you the meaning in English. All right. So apparel, appare. Sorry, apparel, apparere. This has kind of a 2R roll here. So apparel, apparere. Appareo, apparere. This is to appear. So pretty easy meaning, but it's kind of a tongue twister in the infinitive. So appareo, apparere. To appear. And then the next one, ardeo, ardere, ardeo, ardere. This is to burn or to be on fire. So this verb is not, so it doesn't mean like you burn the meat or something. Like, you know, I burned the cookies. That's not this form. It's like I am burning myself. Like I am on fire, right? So it doesn't take a direct object. Ardeo, ardere, to burn, to be on fire. And this is where we get our word for arson. Arson is the intentional burning of someone's property. We've talked about cavel, cavere, cavel, cavere. As to be aware of or to guard against. Again, this verb in English can be tricky because we sometimes want to use a different case, you know, because it'll have either of or against or for. You know, you could translate this watch out for. But this verb takes an accusative direct object, just like any other regular Latin transitive verb. Okay, so this will be whatever you're guarding against, whatever you're being aware of, or whatever you're watching out for. It'll be in the accusative case. Pardon me, just like canem. And of course we get caution. And you can see that U there in caution comes from the fact that they would have pronounced this cowel. Our next one here, we don't have a derivative in English of this. We don't use the Latin to say this word in English. Jubel, jubel, jubere. And this is to order or command. This will take a direct object in the accusative as well. To order or command. I don't know about that one, Timothy. Are you stating that or asking? Because I don't. Asking, yeah, I would say probably not, but maybe. They're saying that there's not one here. There's Juvo too, right? Mano, manere. This is to remain, right? There it is, a derivative there. To remain or stay. And it can mean something like to live, in the sense of to occupy a place, you know, where you reside, right? It can mean that too. So So a mansion, it means a place where you stay, or where some people stay. Not me, but some people stay in mansions, right? So a mansion, a manse is a word, a French word for house, or the place where you stay. Mano, manere. Prohibo, prohibere. Prohibo, prohibere. And this is a pretty clear English derivative to me. It means to prevent, and the English derivative is prohibit. And I want to just remind you that English derivatives are not definitions. So don't think of the derivatives over here as additional kind of glosses or translation equivalents for the Latin word. They're not that. And prohibit in English means a little something different than what prohibo means in Latin. It's just a little bit different. In Latin, prohibo is much broader than prohibit in English. Prohibit in English means something like, I do not give you permission to do it. Or it has a kind of a connotation of trying not to allow something. It's usually done by someone who in authority. And that's not all the time, but often that's the connotation. It doesn't have that connotation in Latin. It's much more common. Your next one, respondo, respondere. Respondo, respondere. This is to respond or answer. So not too hard here to remember that gloss. Probably to respond, to answer. Respondo, respondere. Frighten. To frighten here. Tero, terere. Tero, terere. To frighten. So keep tero and timo apart in your mind, okay? They're kind of opposites in a way. They're kind of logical opposites. Tero means to frighten. Timo means to fear, okay? Right, so these are kind of opposites if you think about it. First, tero, to frighten, you get, to terrify. Yep, so a terrorist is someone who uses fear to as a way of protesting, or a terrorist is a person who uses fear as a way of making demands or whatever. Yep. So a lot of people, when we think of terrorism, we actually think of the violence or whatever, and that's actually not the act of. I mean, we call it acts of terror. That's actually kind of a newer term. The actual terrorism is the act of playing on the possibility of those acts happening. So terrorism is a method of affecting the behavior of people or the behavior of a country by putting them into fear of violence or random bombings or whatever. So the terrorism is already there, even if there may not be actual violence. Does that make sense? So that's actually what terrorism, the definition of terrorism, and that's why it comes from this word to frighten. Timeo, timere, and then is to fear or be afraid of, and so that's why that's where we get our word for timid. Now, if you're timid, then you're at least acting like you're afraid of whatever is in view there. Timo, temere, to fear or be afraid of. And then this last word is possibly one of the most common words in spoken Latin. Now, we're not really learning spoken Latin. The way that Latin was spoken in most places for most periods of time anyway was quite different than the way we're learning it. The vulgar Latin was very different in most places. We're learning the way Latin would have been written, but the most common spoken word in Latin was at least one of the most common was doubtless valeo, valere. Probably, so this word means to be strong or be well, and this is the way you would greet someone. You would say, just the way we did with caveo, cavere, we said cave as a command to do that action, right? So cave means beware, do it. Vale would be telling someone to be well or be strong, and this is the way you would greet a person on the street. You'd say vale, they would say wale, and that would be kind of like the hi or the goodbye, especially that thing where you kind of see somebody and you're not going to talk to them, but you want to say, hey, I saw you, and we know each other, so you say like hi and bye, or you just kind of wave. That would be vale, be well. So really, really common here, and you'll see this all over the place. And of course, if you're saying goodbye to lots of people, you would say valete. But this word means to be strong or be well. Any questions about those specific words there? Okay. Yep. So just a little bit more here. Okay, so in English we can say, right, we can say, now when I was little, when I was little, I had this, what I consider now to be a fairly understandable fear of mascots. Okay, so, and in fact, if I'm bearing my soul right now, I actually really don't like them still. So you're not going to catch me, posting pictures on Facebook of me snuggling up and hugging some kind of big-headed mascot at Disney World. I'm not going to be doing that. I feared mascots when I was little. It's just like, who's in there, and the big head, I don't know. So anyway, I used to fear mascots. And so now if I say the word fear that way, you know what I mean. Like, I fear them. We can also say, like, I am afraid of them. Okay, I am afraid of them. And you would use timo for both of those statements. Okay, you would use timo for both of those statements. Okay, so I fear dogs. I fear dogs would be canis timo. I fear dogs. That would also be the way you would say, I am afraid of dogs. Right? So you would not. So you would translate I fear dogs and I am afraid of dogs the same way. Canis timo. Just because in English you're thinking of dogs does not mean that you put canis in the genitive, in other words. So with these words that we have today, there are a lot of words that kind of that use prepositions in English or other little forms in English, where in Latin they're just a simple verb with an object, even though in English we translate them with maybe a prepositional phrase. So like to beware of a dog, to be afraid of a dog. To respond to someone. right? So you could even answer someone, you know, and this is going to take a direct object in the accusative case. Does that make sense? So don't be fooled when you see you know, I am afraid of something. Don't put that something in the genitive just because you have of before it, right? Because, you know, afraid of is the verb. So kanes timeo, I'm afraid of dogs. That's right. These are direct objects. Okay, so all right, let's kind of do a little practice with that if we need to. So what if you said, if you wanted to say, beware of, let's see what are some good things that you know already. Yeah, beware of poets. Gotta watch out for those poets. They're dangerous. How would you want to translate this? Beware of poets. I got the Latin for me. Beware of poets. This might be the first time anyone's ever said that sentence. All right, I haven't gotten a right answer yet. There you go, Sophia. That's right. So what you would do here, cave poetas. All right? Cave poetas. Poetas is the direct object of cave. Beware of poets. The of is, yeah. So if you're used to just translating every single of with a genitive, then you're going to have some trouble. So remember that when we're translating from Latin into English or from English into Latin, we're not translating each word into the next language. We're translating meanings. And this is a great example of that, and it's important that you understand that. So this is a great example of the fact that we're translating meanings and not words. Okay. Now words carry meaning, and so a lot of times we have to have kind of equivalent words that work together, and a lot of times one word will work for another. One Latin word works for one English word a lot of times, but in many cases. You can't translate word by word. You have to translate meanings. So beware of poets in English has a prepositional phrase, of poets, or kind of a genitive there. But in Latin, we don't have the genitive. Cavere, right? Caveo, cavere just takes, it means beware of itself. Right? It has the of in the verb. It has the ofness there in the verb. And so cave takes a direct object. Cave poetas. And that's why the Latin saying for today is translated beware the dog. That probably sounds a little bit off to you because we normally don't say it that way in English. Normally we say beware of the dog. But because of that confusion in Latin, they translated it away in English. That's a little bit off in English, so that the saying is not so confusing because of the of, but really, kave kana means what we mean in English by beware of the dog. So this could mean beware of poets or beware poets. But we never say it like that. And you never say beware the dog. You say of. But that doesn't mean that in Latin it has to be a genitive. The meaning is what's important. And in Latin, that word beware takes an accusative direct object. So cave means watch out for or beware of, and then the direct object and the accusative. All right, let's try another one here. I'm afraid of poets. You got to watch out for them because they're scary and I'm afraid of them. Yeah, so timel, that's right, Amelin, timel poetas. I am afraid of poets. Because timel means I am afraid of. And so you just need poets in the accusative. Okay. Is anyone still confused? Or is this clear? Okay. Okay. All right. So let's try something else on precise here. You can fear people or things or basically nouns, but something that I also fear is well, there are a lot of things that you can fear that are not things or nouns. You can fear actions too, can't you? You can fear fighting, for example. Right? So you can say I'm afraid, and we'd say in English I'm afraid to fight. Right? I am afraid to fight. When it's an action that you're afraid of, then you put that action in the infinitive. And this verb timel can take an infinitive, a complementary infinitive. And it's because, remember, that's a kind of direct object, isn't it? That's right. Timel pugnare or pugnare. I am afraid to fight. And here we happen to use an infinitive in English as well. I'm afraid to fight. You could also translate that I'm afraid of fighting. That would be fine. With an English gerund, I'm afraid of fighting. You can see there on page 77 you have some examples of that. Tememos natare. We fear to swim. We are afraid to swim. All right. Any questions about that? Some of these can take yeah. Okay. So what would this mean then? Just you can do it in the poll. Let's see. There you go. Yeah, you can look at the book on this one if you need to. Yeah, well, we're in the poll right now, John Paul. So we got a little bit more up there. You're right about volare timet, though. That would be correct. Okay, close this poll and see what we got. All right. Here's what we got. So you either have mother is afraid to fly, or the mother is afraid to fly, and both of those are fine. Fears to fly is okay, but that's it. But you really want to say it the way we would say it in English, and so I would probably say is afraid to fly is better. Is afraid of flying will work too. But those are both probably better than fears to fly, because that's just not the way we really say it in English. So if we're truly translating, we want to get it to the way we say it in English. But I mean, that gets at the idea for sure, though. So everybody got the idea there. Mater volare timet. And just, hypothetically speaking, purely hypothetically, if there were a mother who were afraid to fly, she would not see her grandkids very often, unfortunately. So, okay. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. Try this one. You always want to start with your verb. You always want to start with your verb. So you start with your verb, and then you find your subject, and then you find your object, and then you clean up the rest. Starting to get some answers. Just another couple of seconds. Okay, I'll close it now. Okay, here's what we got. So you want to start with, when you have longer sentences like this, so you got 4 words here, so you got, a little bit of a longer sentence, and you want to start with the verb all the time. Always start with the verb, ubebit. What tense is our verb in here? Ubebit. Future, that's right. So future tense. So you always want to do this same method. You always want to start with your verb. So you can see right above me what we're going to be doing. So find the verb and ask it the questions. All right. So you say you ubebit. What tense are you? Well, your future tense. Will command. And it says the subject going to be singular or plural. And you're going to say, well, this is a singular ending here, so it's going to be singular, and it's third person, so you're expecting a singular noun. So that'll be in the nominative. So you go find that, and you find Caesar. So Caesar's got to be the subject of ubebit. Caesar will command. And so ubebit, you expect, so what does the subject want? This, ubebit, sorry, what does the verb want? Ubebit wants a direct object, doesn't it? You command someone, or you command someone to do something. So you might even need an infinitive. And here you have both. You command the object nautas sailors. So Caesar will command sailors natare, to swim. Caesar will command sailors to swim. Okay. Yeah, everyone thought it was sail. But most people got the structure of the sentence. Yeah, so nato means to swim, right? So a natatorium. Yeah, right. Navigo means to sail. Natatorium, right, is like an indoor pool. Okay, any questions about Kaisar nautas natare ubebit? All right. See, navigo and nauta show you that the U and V are really the same letter. See, navtas. Right. So we've just kept it there kept a U in the noun, but kept a V in the verb for whatever reason, even though those were the same letter in the ancient world. Okay, let's try one more here. Let's see. All right, let's see what you got here going from English into Latin. Great leaders are not afraid to command. Sounds like a motto or something, doesn't it? Great leaders are not afraid to command, or a proverb or whatever. So you want to start with your verb. What verb do you think we should use here? Just so I'll give you a little bit of a track to be on here. What verb do you think we should use? Great leaders are not afraid to command. What verb are we going to use here? Yeah, so what verb is going to translate that in Latin is what I'm saying. Just the verb. You don't have to give me the form. That's your job here. But what verb are you going to use? Right, this will be a form of timeo. Are not afraid will be translated by timeo. So it won't be sunt or anything like that. It'll be timeo, to be afraid, right? Okay, I've got 2 correct answers here. 3 correct answers. Great work so far, guys. Great leaders are not afraid to command. There we go. Okay, just another couple of seconds. Okay, here's what we got. So I got a lot of great answers. Great job, guys. So I was very impressed. So what we have here, they are not afraid to command. Great leaders are not afraid to command. So you need to not afraid. They are not afraid. So this would be non-tement, right? This is third person present tense plural of this second conjugation verb timeo. So you would say here non-tement. That would be your main verb. Now your subject is going to be in the plural nominative. So leaders is going to be your subject. So dukes in the nominative plural is do chase. Do chase. Do chase, non-tement. Leaders are not afraid. And so they're not afraid, or they don't fear what? You need a direct object here, and in this case, it's going to be a complementary infinitive to command, non-tement, and so iubere, right? To command, iubere. Duces magni non-tement iubere. So that would be your full thing, because magnus aum needs to be in the masculine nominative plural, magni. So duces boni iubere non-tement is good, but pardon me. The form is fine, but it doesn't translate great quite well enough. We're looking for great leaders, not just good ones, right? But the forms there are correct. Okay, so you guys did a wonderful job here. Dukes, duces in the nominative plural, so that would get magni, nominative masculine plural of that adjective. And I think you're right to put the adjective after the noun there, because here we're not talking about large leaders, but great leaders in a qualitative sense. So I think that you guys did a wonderful job there. So we're finished today. You guys are dismissed. Great job, good work. if you have any questions, I'll take them, but you're free to go if you need to.